You two would pull off the perfect murder.
Oh my God, we're two Thelmas or two Louises.
There's your like Netflix comedy. Ashley Flowers and Kelly Ripa.
idea.
Kidding. I want to binge it right now.
Get on that. Somebody gonna cue me or do I cue myself?
Cue yourself.
Okay. Hey, we are back with Let's Talk Off Camera, so let's get talking.
Yes.
Let's play some spooky music. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. On this special Halloween edition of this here humble podcast, we will be discussing some haunting stories with the queen of true crime, Ashley Flowers. You know, with a name like Ashley Flowers, right? You would think like an Ina Garten type of person, right? But no, Ashley Flowers she's got my mind, that diabolical crime junkie mind. Guys, we can learn a thing or two from Ashley.
Yeah.
Okay, we can learn a thing or two, Jan.
Yeah, I know.
Because she's the #1 female podcast host. As painful as that is for me. Painful for me to admit. And she is the mastermind behind, of course, I just talked about it, Crime Junkie.
Yes.
I'm a crime junkie.
You are.
You are. That's true.
I'm the original junkie. I remember when the first episode dropped. In addition to Crime Junkie, her mega media empire includes The Deck. The Deck Investigates, so supernatural, full body chills, and the recently launched, my favorite title ever, Crime Junkie AF. Because we are all Crime Junkie AF.
Yes.
And it doesn't stop there. She's a New York Times bestselling author. She's the founder of the nonprofit Season of Justice, which is dedicated to funding advanced DNA testing to help solve cold cases. That's
really
amazing.
cool.
That's pretty
That is,
amazing.
you know, when we did that Ancestry DNA.
Yeah.
I remember my agent at the time. He goes, "My only concern is how is this DNA going to be used?" and you know what? It's being used for good, not evil.
Yes.
It's being used to solve cold cases. And, I can't wait to talk to her, but she's about to join us. But let me do a quick mental health check-in with Albert and Jan. Jan, I know you were in University of Michigan for Parents Weekend, as was I.
It was rainy. It was
Boy,
cold.
But you know what?
Drenched.
It was so rainy. It was the kind of rain that chills you to the core that you never get warm again.
Right.
I never got warm again. I was cold.
Never got warm. I kept taking hot showers. It didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
It was brutal. But we had a good weekend. It was very funny. I texted you a little bit about this, but Albert, you need to hear this as well. We were on the way down, Caden was saying, "Oh my God, my friend from high school is going to be here. My friend from high school is visiting the school." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And he's like, "Yeah, Finn's going to be here. He's coming with his dad. They're visiting the school." I'm like, "Great." And he's like, "Finn wants to come out with us, but he didn't bring his fake ID." And I was like, "Okay, don't worry about it, whatever." So the next day we're at brunch, and it's a very popular place that, what is it called? The Jagged Fork? Or
the Jagged Fork. There's many popular places. The Stray Hen, the Jagged Fork.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
delicious. Anyway, we're waiting in the line. Like, there's a huge line to get in. And all of a sudden, Caden jumps up and hugs Finn, his friend, who's there. And I see Glenn is talking to a man who's Finn's dad, whose back's to me while he's talking to Glenn the whole time. I'm like, I guess I'm not part of this conversation. So
Right.
I start talking to Luke, right? And then they're talking for 10, 15 minutes. And then they were like, "We're going to wait outside." And Glenn's like, "Before you leave, meet my wife, Jan. Jan, this is JP." The guy turns around. This is a guy I slept with in high school. This is Finn's dad. I was like, So I didn't, like, we were just like, "Hi, yeah, we know each other. We went to high school together." We're like both like clocking the situation. He leaves. And I turned to my family and I said, "I know him. Like, I really know him." Caden jumps up, runs out of the restaurant to track him down and goes, "Please tell me you didn't date my mom."
Oh,
Incredible.
my God.
Incredible.
It was so awkward to know that I'm going to now see him at every like high school thing. Like,
yeah, it's amazing.
You shouldn't have said anything because you're going to
Amazing.
get...
It's amazing.
Caden comes back. He goes, "Is Finn my brother?" I was like,
Yes.
"It doesn't work that way, buddy."
Probably.
That's hilarious.
I mean,
Jan.
meet JP. I'm like, yeah, I
Code
know.
red, Jan. That is a
Total
code red.
Total code red.
That's
Wow.
very exciting for me. How does JP look?
He actually looks good. He
Okay.
looks good.
But
He
the
aged
important
well.
thing is you look good.
Yeah, I did. He's definitely, yes.
I'm sure he was like, oh
Yeah,
my
he's
God.
like, you look
Oh,
the
should have
same.
gone down that road.
Oh my God.
It was a blast from the past.
Oh my gosh, there she is. Hey, Ash.
Hi, how are you?
So I've got to tell you, I've got a terrible eye infection. This is not how I wanted to see you. I wanted to be pretty because you're like one of my girl crushes. Anybody who has a mind as diabolical as yours is right up my alley.
I love it. You're gorgeous. You're gorgeous.
So happy early Halloween.
Hello, happy spooky season.
When you, because I always joke about this with Albert, we did a documentary several years ago for Oxygen.
Oxygen,
Yeah.
yep.
And it was about, it's called Exhumed, and it was about solving crimes of the dead and exhuming the bodies and finding, solving the crime. And it was a couple of seasons. It lasted a couple of seasons. But my browser history on my computer was like, I said to Mark, you can't die. You can't go missing because I will go to jail for the death of you no matter how you die. Is that what your browser history is like?
I'm on every list everywhere. Like, the government has eyes on me.
Right, of course. What sparked your interest in true crime?
I was like born. I always say like crime junkies are born, they're not made.
So true.
My mom was a crime junkie, her mom before her. So the only thing I ever grew up reading was Nancy Drew and Agatha Christie. And I was watching Columbo and Matlock and Murder, She Wrote. And then, I'm like tabloid height one day and the JonBenet Ramsey thing is all over every newspaper stand and magazine cover. And I'm like exactly her age. And I think that's when I was like, oh my God, these stories are real life. And I lost myself in it ever since.
Right. It's so funny that you were JonBenet Ramsey's exact age
Well,
because
close.
I
Yeah,
was
a little younger.
I was an adult and I believe I had a child at that time. And I was like horrified. When you have kids, I remember there was like a rash of like horrible things that happened to either pregnant women or women with their children.
Oh, yeah.
And every one of those stories, you cannot help but like put yourself in the position of the woman or the child, or what kind of a mother does that, or what kind of a, what if that happened to my kid?
I know. I used to think, because I have a 2.5-year-old. Before that, I had no kids, and I used to think
Right.
like, well, of course, like I'm human. I understand the pain. Like I can empathize. I'm an empathetic person. It's picturing yourself though, that like I just get a whole different level of sick to my stomach, because I think you can't appreciate what is lost if you didn't have it. You can I think you feel bad and you can understand that what's happening is sad, but like you just feel it in a different way.
It hits different.
Yeah.
When I first moved to New York City, the Menendez brothers had just killed their parents and they were standing trial. And I remember watching it. I was like, I don't remember what I was shooting, but I was shooting something where I was working in a trailer, and my trailer had a television, and the television only got court TV.
Perfect.
So I was watching this trial for hours and hours, and I had such definitive opinions back then.
I was going to ask you, so like everyone that I know now, when they hear the Menendez brothers, they have a very specific idea about these rich kids that killed their parents because they wanted their money. And that's not really the whole story. And if you watched the first trial, so did you always feel like it was different, or even then, is that what you believe?
No, I remember being a young person and thinking these rich sons of guns killed their parents, and I believe it's interesting. They glossed over in the original trial. It was presented in the media like these two diabolical murderers were lying, and now saying now they are dragging their dead murdered parents through the mud by claiming they're rapists and child molesters, and how awful. Like that's how it was covered in the media. No matter how they're no matter nowadays, it's like, oh, well, no, it was always covered that they were. It really wasn't. They were portrayed as murderers and liars. And I was all in. They are murderers and liars.
Which is wild because in the first trial, I mean, they had all the stuff about the abuse. Like they had experts on the stand, but it's just unbelievable, like what happens in court and then what gets translated to the things that are going to sell newspapers.
Well, what's so interesting is Mark and I, a couple of years ago, were watching this documentary on Menudo.
Yeah. Oh, I watched it too. Yeah.
Right. So I'm watching this documentary on Menudo because my husband, when he came to America, his friends in junior high school convinced him that he should pretend that he was a member of Menudo to pick up girls. I'm not kidding. And so I'm not kidding. Was their pickup line was that Mark was the newest member of Menudo. And that's why he was there, because he was in Menudo. So and apparently it worked like a charm. Anyway, so we watched this documentary. I go, oh my God, there's a documentary about your former bandmates from Menudo.
Former bandmates.
And all of a sudden, this sort of chestnut is dropped in the middle of the documentary that one of the record executives, Jose Menendez, was drugging and raping at least one of these young men.
Yeah.
And I stopped and I was like, wait, did I hear that right? Did they say Jose Menendez as in the Menendez brothers' father?
Yeah.
And again, I'm older. I have children. My children were like, late teens, early 20s. The oldest was in his early 20s. My youngest was in his late teens. And that hit different.
Yeah.
Then it was like,
and we've
oh my
gotten
God.
savvier, right, about how
Right.
to like read between the lines, and we know when we're getting sold something, I think, more than we did before.
Are you watching the Ryan Murphy docu-series? Not docu-series, I would like drama series. Drama series.
I have not finished it yet, but I did start it. And it seems like from what I've gotten through so far that they at least like acknowledge and dive a little deeper into that.
They leave it. It's so interesting the way they present it because they are really serving something for everyone. It is presented in a way, from my humble opinion, that if you believe the Menendez brothers, then you will wholeheartedly believe it more. And if you believe it was all a sham, you will believe it more. It is really interesting the way it's presented.
Very interesting. I don't know if you saw, so I think on Hulu, Ann Burgess, who was one of the women who founded the behavioral analysis unit for the FBI, she had her documentary. And in that one, she talks about how, because she was one of the people who testified at the Menendez trial. And she talks about the drawings that she saw and how she knew right away it was abuse. And I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I've got a crush on Ann Burgess, so maybe she sold me though.
Yeah. I always love like the psychological drawings. I think it tells so much. It's stuff that you don't even think about, even like handwriting analysis, stuff that, and I don't know if you're like me, but when I watch things on serial killers and they're like, well, we did a handwriting analysis and their letters float above the line. And so now I'm like very cognizant of where I place. I'm like, Jesus, my handwriting floats above the line. Oh my God.
I'm the opposite. I've always felt like someone's going to know I'm a serial killer or think I am because I swear to God, my handwriting doesn't look like the same from hour to hour, day to day. It's just like chaos. And I could have like the cutest, like bubbly handwriting. And then it looks like she should have been a doctor. And I think they're going to be like, I don't know what's going on in this poor girl's head.
Wow.
Do you think that there's any chance they will get a new trial?
I don't know.
There are so many people that are sentenced to death and they are put to death, where there's clear evidence that they are not guilty. And still in this country, in the year 2024, I want to understand what you know about the criminal justice system that makes it so
Broken.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the problems is we have people who are so dead set on keeping they're worried about wins and keeping a conviction rate rather than they are about the truth. Like we've lost the truth somewhere along the way. And we've made all these provisions for a right to a speedy trial, but there really is like you lose pretty much all your rights once you're convicted. There is no time length. Like when you submit an appeal, like the judge can get back to you whenever. I mean, your life is on the line, and sometimes they will wait years to hear back. So any idea that you can work your way through the court system quickly is like out the window, which is unbelievable to me.
I want to talk to you about the Karen Reed trial, mistrial.
You had the court TV on when you were in your trailer. I watched I have a full-time job. I watched every second of that trial. I would be like giving my daughter a bath, and I'd have like one AirPod in, and I like
Yeah, right.
YouTube up, and
I understand.
I was going to bed listening to the audio. It was another full-time job, but I was too deep in.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Thank God for the Court TV app. Because it's so funny. I have friends that walk by me on the street and they're like, I walked by you yesterday. I was talking to you on the curb.
No.
You did not lift your head up. You were watching something. You had your ear pods in. I was like, Court TV. I mean, Are you not following? So can you take our listeners inside this trial?
In a quick, how much time you got?
Yeah.
So, essentially, in January of 2022, Karen Reed, her and her boyfriend are going out to the bars. They live in a town just outside of Boston, Canton, Massachusetts.
And he's a cop.
And he's a Boston cop. She, has some kind of sales job, I think. And they have a tumultuous relationship. Like they dated before, now they're dating again. He's taking care of his niece and nephew because his sister and her husband died. And it seems like they fight a lot. Like things are not ideal. They're literally fighting the day this happens. And of course, there is a blizzard because this is just the setting for an enduring mystery. And they go,
and it's Boston,
and
so there has to be a blizzard.
So they go out to this bar. Everyone is, they're with people who like they kind of know, but they're not like best friends with. And apparently everyone's like, all right, the bar's shutting down. Let's take this party back to someone else's house. And it's another cop. And a lot of the people there are law enforcement. And so they go back, and Karen's story's a little bit different. At first, it's like, oh, I think she said my stomach hurt, so I wasn't going to go. I just dropped him off. Then the second time, her story is, well, I didn't know if we were invited exactly. So like I sent him in to make sure it was okay that we showed up, and then he never came back, and I got pissed. And so I left. But either way, it ends with he leaves, or he gets out of the car, she leaves, and then she is pissed at him one way or another. I mean, there's all these angry voicemails and angry text messages where she's basically like, go F yourself, like you're in there cheating on me, or I mean, just like wild stuff. And she goes back to his place and wakes up at like 4:00 in the morning, 4:30, and he's not there. And immediately she says she knows that is a problem because he would never not go home to his niece and nephew. She had told him she wasn't going back there, so she felt like immediately he should know.
And also, it's a blizzard, so like your mind goes to
like
traffic accident.
Who knows? So she immediately starts calling these two women who she knows, one of whom was there the night before, and they start driving to go look for him. And they say, these two women, that it's like this complete blizzard. They go back to the house that they were originally at the night before, and they say they can't see anything, but apparently she spots him right away in the snow. She gets out, she's freaking out, she's saying to call 911. The long and the short of it is John O'Keefe is deceased there in the snow. And initially, almost right away, she's charged with manslaughter. They say that she was drunk, she backed into him, it was an accident, and her lawyer is like, this is a terrible accident, we're going to figure this out. She's horrified. Well, her lawyer, after she gets charged with that or indicted, whatever, he gets in his car and he gets this call from someone who says, your client is being framed. He went in that house, he was beaten to death, and then left out in the snow.
But an autopsy would show that he was beaten to death, right?
What expert are you asking? Like, it's
right.
That's what's crazy is like you get to trial, and that's what's also so frustrating about the justice system. It doesn't feel like anything's black and white anymore. It feels like whoever you can pay to say the thing you want to say. I don't think people are lying, but like so much is left up to interpretation by experts who, don't get me started on the amount of times experts have turned out to be like total frauds. So they decide to up the charges, I think because she's starting to maybe want to fight back, and they up the charges to second-degree murder, meaning that she had some kind of intention of killing him. She wasn't just drunk and left. And her and her lawyer start unveiling what they say is this huge conspiracy against her. And it sounds Looney Tunes that like something this big could happen. And this blogger gets involved who's like a gaming blogger, but now all of a sudden he's like hashtag free Karen Reed. He's like like leading the charge.
I love social media crime solvers. They
I
are
know.
my favorite people on the planet.
They're feisty too.
They are involved in ways. I mean, I always say, like, is that a full-time job?
Yes.
Solving
I
crimes on the
they don't
internet?
get paid for it, but
Right. They don't get paid for
Yeah.
it, but they literally post relentlessly about it.
well, I think he is getting paid for it now. I'm pretty sure he sold his life rights for like a movie or something, so I think he'll
Right,
be
of
just
course.
fine.
Of course, right.
So it all sounds bananas. It sounds like this conspiracy theory is just like a wild, harebrained defense. And then all of a sudden it comes out that the FBI has been investigating like the homicide investigation. Like, and they won't say it like in so many words, but they find out that all of their witnesses in this case are getting subpoenaed by the FBI for some kind of federal grand jury. And through the federal grand jury, the feds, which in a move they never do, end up releasing like 3,000 pages of documentation to the defense and the prosecution of what they found. And everyone is lying. Like the lead investigator is like super tight with the people who own the house. He's lying about, oh my God, he had these text messages where he's talking about looking through Karen's phone, looking for nudes. He's calling her the C word. I mean, it's like every wild accusation they made that sounds just off the wall.
Sounded made up.
Ends
Right.
up being true. Ends up being
Wow.
true. And then another investigator's there, like there's another cop who is there who like goes to like work that night, supposedly at like 2 a.m. And then all of a sudden he doesn't keep his phone. He like goes to an army base to throw away his phone because he knows that, well, he says that's just what he does. But really, I mean, you know,
That's
just.
just what he does. He just throws away his phone
Yeah,
at an
you
army
really
base.
just know that the police can't go get your
Mhm.
phone there. But so she goes on this, does this trial. It's like this, I invested 6 weeks of my life, and I know I'm not the victim here, but it's
Right.
weeks of my life. And it results in a hung jury. Like they cannot make their minds. The prosecution says they're gonna do another trial. But what was so wild is after everyone's like, okay, we're good, like we'll do this again another day, some of the jurors start coming forward and they say, no, she wasn't, we're a hung jury on everything. The only thing we couldn't decide on was the manslaughter. Was she drunk and accidentally did it? We said not guilty on second degree. And then there was this, but basically they said, so, too bad, so sad. Like we ruled it one way and that's how it goes.
So basically, they're like, no, you said it's a hung jury and that's it. So we can still try her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even though the jurors came back and they were like, no, like you misunderstood our jury form. We said she was not guilty on second degree, which should mean that they can't try her for that again. But because the judge ruled it as is, now they can. Now, it doesn't hurt that the judge, they used to call her, people within the case called her Aunt Bev. I mean, everyone is connected in this thing. Everyone knows
I mean,
everyone.
they need a change of venue to a different state. Sounds like.
Yes.
Not a different town, not a
No.
different county, a different state.
Yeah, and it's going to even be hard. I mean, this one, it started so small, but as the trial was going, I mean, it picked up massively. I don't know how they're
I
going to.
mean, I don't know about you if you've ever been called for jury duty. I have.
Did you make it on to the jury?
I got very close. They wound up releasing me because both of the attorneys knew who I was. So even though I was with a group of people, they were talking only to me the whole time. And I was like,
Oh,
fuck,
weird.
am I going down for this crime? This is nuts. You know, and I said to them, they were like, if anybody cannot devote 2 weeks, please let us know right now. And I shot my hand up and I said, as you know, because they were like, my wife's a big fan, my mother's a big fan. Like they were like going this whole thing. And I was like, well, as your wife or your mother can tell you,
I've got this thing I have to do every morning.
we are doing the show in Las Vegas. We leave tomorrow morning for Las Vegas. But you remember, Jan, I took off work Monday. I was like, I'll see you guys on Tuesday. And literally I kept advancing to the next round.
No
I was
way.
like, If this was to win a prize, I would have been cut off immediately. But here I am. The big takeaway was a jury of your peers. Here's a jury of our peers. People were using crazy excuses. My excuse sounded crazy, but it was actually authenticated. We were, in fact, doing our talk show in Las Vegas. It was well documented. It was like a thing. But people were like, I don't want to be here. It's the final days of the Barney sale. And like, this is like, the people did not want to be there because Barney's was at 80% off. And nobody wanted to be on this jury. And I was like, a jury of your peers are the very people you probably don't want on the jury.
I would love to be on a jury. If you ever need to get out again, the only thing you have to say is like, I host a true crime podcast, because every time I'm out.
Yeah, but I don't host a true crime. What would I say? I know somebody who hosts a true
I watch Judge
crime.
Judy every day.
I watch Judge Judy. I'm very
friends with
judgmental.
Ashley, is all you have to
Yeah,
say.
I'm friends with Ashley Flowers, and she told me how all crimes work. So
So basically,
he looks pretty guilty to me.
honestly, you're out. There you go.
So, but going back to this, here's the one, like in all of the facts that stand out, and there are a lot of facts. There's one that really stands out, heads and
What's
toes,
your
above
favorite?
all the other. A woman at Brian's house Googled hose long to die in the cold. I believe she meant how long to
Yeah.
die, but I do like the
There's
typo of hose.
T-shirts made, Haas long to die in cold. It has become like a,
Yeah.
a
So
thing
how
now.
long does it take to die in the cold? Did we figure that out?
I don't know if that got determined exactly, but
But that was a Google search at 2:27 a.m.
yeah, Haas long to look suspicious is as long as it takes you to type that. So she's actually one of the women who Karen was driving to the scene with. She's one of the people she calls in the morning, brings her like she's there when she finds John. So Jennifer McCabe, that's her name. Her excuse is, I didn't type that at 2:27 in the morning. And the reason 2:27 is bad is because supposedly no one knows John is laying in the snow in the cold until 6 a.m. when he's found. She says, I didn't type it at 2:27. When we find him in the cold, Karen's crying. She's saying, Google how long till hypothermia sets in, how long to die in the cold. And she says she pulls up a browser that had been opened at 2:27, and that's why. Now,
Does that work that way? Wow.
well, let me tell you what the
That's-
FBI said.
Okay, tell me what the FBI said.
So there was a ton of back and forth about this because, the defense is saying absolutely not. Like, this is just proof that she knew he was out there. The FBI, when their federal investigation, they say that they can tell definitively that it was in fact made at 2:27 in the morning. And there is no way you can explain that search if you did not know he was laying in the cold.
Unless you wanted to know how long hose take to die. in the cold.
How long to dying?
Wow.
Yeah, it's just thing after thing after thing because the tail light on her car was supposedly broken, but they have video evidence that they tried to flip in trial to confuse the jury, like they got caught and it felt so shady. But it's like them all around this tail light that doesn't look broken before. And then once it's in police custody, it looks broken. And then when they go back to the scene days later, they magically find the taillight where John was, but they didn't find it when they originally took him away from the scene.
So what's your gut instinct? Is this some sort of cover up for a violent attack that happened at this house? I mean, allegedly. I feel like if we say allegedly before everything, we can't be sued.
I'm not sure that's how it works.
The
We're
lawyers
cleared
will
of
allow
any
it.
crime. Right. So do you allegedly believe that
Allegedly.
this
Allegedly.
cop died within that house and was tossed outside, and then she was set up to take the fall? So what's your gut instinct? Do you allegedly believe that this cop died within that house and was tossed outside, and then she was set up to take the fall?
I think that they presented enough evidence at trial to make that a question that leads to reasonable doubt. So the people who own that house, it's so wild. He was born and raised in that home, Brian Albert, who owned the house. And after this incident, he ends up selling it. Like, I mean, raised as a child in that home, he bought it from his parents. He ends up selling the home. There's part of the theory is that they had a dog, and John O'Keefe has these marks on his arm that even though he got hit by a car, they're saying looks like dog bites. There was someone who even testified that at trial. And they get rid of their family dog after this. So there's some just strange things. And, the thing I can't say is why. I don't, but everyone was
Right.
trashed. And I don't
Right.
think you make rational decisions when you're trashed.
And then they don't make good witnesses when they're not trashed.
Right. Well, and they're just bad witnesses. I could tell you can tell who was at the house that night and who wasn't just by them being on the stand, because if you were at the house that night, you can't recall shit. And
Right, right.
everyone else seemed to be able to have a decent memory.
Right. Except the
I don't
people in
recall.
the house.
I don't recall.
But what was the part about her Wi-Fi being at a friend's house? Like, isn't that part of this too?
There's so many parts to this.
Yeah.
Well, she goes back to his house. Again, she tells him she's not because she's just trying to like get him to leave, I think. She's trying to get a reaction out of him, but she goes back to his house and she connects to his Wi-Fi at the time that they say that this is all happening.
So isn't that just proof
you
that
would,
she wasn't there?
You would think, but
That's
apparently not.
crazy.
I want to understand like cell tower data that
Oh, good
when
luck.
because it's one of these things where the prosecution like believes it when it works in their
Favor, yeah. If you can figure out cell phone data, you can solve the Karen retrial and you can solve Adnan Syed, and we'll have.
Yeah, that's what I was
we'll
thinking.
have all
I
the
was thinking
answers.
of Adnan Syed.
Well, bring it back to the Karen retrial. I can't tell you how many times I thought, like, if she would have had a public defender, like, there's no way they would have been able to come up with
She's
this
in
conspiracy.
jail.
They would have had her plead out, and this would have been over like 2 years ago.
It's unfortunate because I feel like a lot of innocent people sit in jail because they just don't have the resources to defend themselves properly.
An unimaginable amount.
So give us the background on the curse of the crying boy paintings.
So this is an episode we did on So Supernatural recently that I'm obsessed with like the weird and the spooky stuff. So
Yeah.
I love obviously true crime. It's where my heart and soul is, but like anything that gets a little weird and unexplained, I'm obsessed with. So there were these paintings in the UK that were said to be cursed. So this painting of this crying boy gets mass produced for God knows what reason, because it's like a very depressing painting of a little boy crying.
That's all paintings in the UK, just for the record.
Super. So for some reason, many people will say like they saw this and for some reason it calls to them. And so they buy this painting, and over and over again, there are these stories of homes burning to the ground, like ashes. And the only thing that survives the house burning down are these paintings. And like not just once, not just twice, it's an eerie amount of this happening. And sure, you could say like, was it like lacquered in something that's
Is it
fire retardant?
fireproof?
But why is it happening in all the homes that have these paintings to begin with? Why are they having these like mass fires? And there's potentially backstories about the artist who made it, who says that he ran into this boy who was cursed by the devil, and it just it gets a little weirder and weirder and weirder. But and this is I think my fun, the most fun part about Supernatural. You don't know where the line is between like, oh well, that sounds it is like true crime. It's like Karen Reed. That sounds a little ridiculous, and you're like, but houses are burning down and the painting keeps surviving.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in all of that supernatural shit.
Same.
Have you ever had a supernatural experience?
No, I'm like out here begging for it to happen to me, and I think that's why I'm too desperate. The aliens won't find me.
Yeah, we've got to bring you to our house in the Hamptons. We have a ghost that lives in our house, and we are.
No.
Yes, we do, and everybody's experienced the ghost. Everybody that's been there has experienced the ghost. It's a benign ghost.
Most of them are.
My mother-in-law is convinced it's a little boy, not the one from the painting that burns the houses down. But
our house is still standing. Love
But
it.
this ghost sets off our fire alarm, usually at 3:00 in the morning, to the point where the alarm company can't get it off. The fire brigade has had to come to our home. They can't get the alarm to go off.
Stop it.
No, it's a real thing. And the ghost constantly plays pranks. We've all had experiences with the ghost. and we were talking about the ghost again because my hormone cream went missing and I couldn't find it. And I keep it in the same. It's like it's not unfindable. It lives where it lives. It's like
has a
a
home.
wall phone. You know what I mean? It's like the phone in the wall. That's where it lives.
Yeah.
So the hormone cream is missing, and I cannot find it anywhere. And I am searching the house high and low. And Mark's like, did you put it under the cabinet? Did you put it in the closet? Did you put it here? Did you there? Now I'm going to other bathrooms. I'm going to Lola's bathroom, Joaquin's bathroom, Michael's bathroom. It's nowhere. I'm in the guest bathroom. I go down to the basement. It's not there. It's nowhere. It's nowhere. I come back upstairs to our bathroom and I'm like, I need my hormone cream or bad shit's going to happen. Beelzebub's going to come out, and so I start all over again. Medicine cabinet. I go under the sink. I stand back up and it's right there. Right there. And I scream to Mark and I go, shut the fuck up. Because I thought Mark was playing a trick on me. And I go, where did you hide this? And he's in bed and he goes, what are you talking about? And I go, it's right here. The hormone cream is right here. And sure enough, it was there. But it wasn't there because I just ran through the whole house. And
Have you named him?
We haven't named him. We just call him the ghost.
Well, that's probably why he's pissed at you. Now you just get a name.
My mother-in-law calls him Biriki Nacho, which means like little devil. That's what she calls him. But we just call him the ghost. So that's my. If you want to come to Long Island, you can meet the ghost. The ghost is not shy.
I just did an episode with Alison Dubois, so I'm bringing her. We're gonna get to the bottom of who this kid is.
You'll love it. You'll love it. You'll love it. I mean, there's a lot. Albert can tell you there's a lot of stories because we had a priest come and he smudged. He sort of.
Oh, so you did things about
this. And we asked, and he asked the child to leave, and the child left, but then he started wreaking havoc outside of the house, and so we were like, come back in. So then we let him come back in because he was way worse outside of the house than inside of the house.
I'm so into this.
Ashley, I went over there this weekend to borrow her KitchenAid mixer, and I was in and out of the house in 32 seconds. 32. I got out.
He's not scared.
I didn't care. I got right out.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm in love with that. It never happens to me. I look up at the sky for UFOs every night, and I can't see them. I can't.
So anyway, back to the crying boy.
Yeah.
Did they investigate who this kid is? Do they know anything about?
That's where they tried to look into the background of the artist, and they think that they have found who he is, and that in the story of this, supposedly it was this orphaned boy who he came across and wanted to paint, and who would cry, but then everyone in town told him don't go near him. He starts fires, which that might
he starts
add up.
fires. The boy
Yeah.
actually. I see.
So they say, and so, but he adopts this boy anyways, which I don't love this man off the street just adopting this boy. I feel like this turns into a true crime thing.
Yeah, I mean, but when was the boy adopted by the stranger on the street?
I honestly, I want to say it was in 1960s.
What?
We're not talking many moons ago. This happened fairly recently. I mean, people still have the crying boy paintings that are burning shit down.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah,
that you can just adopt a kid off the street.
Well, I think it was like Italy, and I guess the rules are different. I don't know.
Yeah,
in the 60s.
Yeah,
so.
I guess you could just take kids off the street back then.
Yeah, like I said, I don't love it.
Right, it's not my favorite.
But he takes him in. His studio burns down, and then he's like, "Get the hell out of here! Never mind."
Wow, real life fire starter.
Yeah,
that's wild. Okay, so tell me about Ada Herodine. Okay, so tell me about Ada Herodine.
So we are hopping to all the shows I hit. So I host a show called The Deck Investigates.
Yes.
And I've spent a year, we're back into true crime world. I've spent a year investigating the disappearance and murder of this housewife. So in 1985, Ada Herodine she's a stay-at-home mom. She's got one kid in college, one kid who's in elementary school, and she's having like a pretty normal day in her home in Elkhart, Indiana. She goes to like this luncheon. She's seen doing some yard work. Someone says they see her at 3:10 p.m. in her front yard. At 3:20, her son gets off the bus and his mom is gone. She has disappeared. No one can find her. There is no trace of her. No one seems to have seen anything happen to her. She's not in the home. She's not in the backyard. They do a search for her for 3 years. It
There's
is like
no
she
leads.
just
There's like she just
no leads.
vanished.
Like she disappeared into thin air. They, for a little while they're like, oh, she went to start a new life maybe, but it didn't make sense. And, then it's like, oh, did someone do something to her? And they have a couple of suspects as they go. And then 3 years later, less than like 12 miles from her home, her skeletal remains are found in this wooded area where they say they have been, based on like testing they did, that they've been this whole time. And so an investigation starts in another county. The people they were looking at before, they all of a sudden are not really interested in. And it's hard because they're like, she's found with nothing, like no clothes. I mean, her wedding ring and her IUD, and that is it.
Ugh.
And they have no idea how she got there. They have no idea what the motive might have been to take her. And so me and one of my reporters, we've spent the last year trying to piece together what that looks like, who the suspects really are, who the police have investigated. And it's been wild because like if you go to town, like everyone knows this like one name. It's kind of like who the community believes did this. But that person isn't around anymore. They had a son and a daughter, and they had no idea that their dad was ever even a suspect in a homicide.
Holy cow. And how old are the son and
So
the daughter now?
they're like in their 20s.
Wow.
So it's just been like this, overhaul of this like investigation, starting from scratch. That's something that happened almost 40 years ago. It's hard to go back, and so many of the people have died, and it's wild trying to get the
And
answers.
the 80s, the mid 80s, that was prime housewives going missing time.
Oh, yeah.
Housewives were vanishing and going missing, and there was always
Right and
like
left.
there was always this narrative that maybe she ran away to start a new life. And I always go, I don't know any mom that runs away to start a new life. First of all,
No.
like, I know moms that are just trying to like if they can
If I could take a bath by myself.
if I can wash my armpits, if I can wash my armpits, that's like starting a new life for me.
Yeah, honestly, like I can be refreshed if I could I remember my mom when we were little, for Mother's Day, my dad got her like a night away at a hotel by herself, and I like could not comprehend. I'm like, why would you want to by yourself? Like, who's gonna swim in the pool with you? Who's gonna I don't.
Right.
And now I'm like, one night away in a hotel, I'm a new person.
Let me tell you something. Mark and I took a weekend away in the hotel. We left our 2 kids with my in-laws for a weekend, and we got pregnant with our 3rd child. We never went away again. We never went away again. I was like, this is what we get. This is why we can't have nice things.
That's why we can't have nice things.
No, none of that.
It's so interesting that you have like, not only are you the Doyenne of true crime and paranormal experiences, but you also have a nonprofit, Season of Justice, and you're using this advanced DNA techniques now, right, to solve unsolved crimes?
Yeah, well, we're providing the funding for it. So the more that I'd worked with law enforcement on cases, the more that I dived into these cases, I found so many times that there was evidence that was perfect for, the DNA testing we all have come to know, but also these advancements in testing. And over again, what I kept hearing from departments is like, that's not something we budgeted for. We didn't know this new technology was coming. We can't afford that. We're running on like bare bones. And I just couldn't believe that the only thing standing between solving the case and not was money. And I learned pretty quickly nobody wants to just like take money from a media company, like law enforcement doesn't. So I set up a nonprofit in late 2019, 2020, where we basically, like, law enforcement agencies will apply for grants, and then we pay the labs directly, so the money doesn't get like lost in anywhere. They get to pick the lab of their choosing, and we have been able to solve, I think at this point, 9 cold cases.
That's
And
incredible.
we've given a ton of names back to Jane and John Doe's. So it's been wild, and it was a really full circle moment because when I started Crime Junkie, one of the first cases I became really obsessed with was one in my hometown, which we never did an episode on, just because I didn't have the right access. But it was of this young woman named Carmen Van Huss, who was 19 at the time, and she doesn't show up for work at Pizza Hut one day. Her coworker calls Carmen's dad, and he gets so worried that he goes over to her apartment, and he ends up finding his daughter. She has been raped, murdered, like she's laying out on her floor, and the case goes unsolved for decades. And they actually tried. There was this one like off-duty officer, or not off-duty, but he didn't even work homicide. He's just like, hey, I have some free time, like you have these cold cases, like let me see what I can do. He solved one case, and so then he took up Carmen's as a second one, and he was like, hey, there's this new technology at the time, and this was like a long time ago, and he's like, it can help us narrow down our pool of suspects by race, which would be really helpful when pretty much anyone is a possibility. And they did have like a couple of people, and they're like, yeah, again, don't have the funding for it, so he like crowdfunds it really quickly. But they didn't like that. So that's what like kind of told me right away that like, oh, you can't just like, the public wants to help. Like
Right.
there's a whole group of people out there who want to do something, but you have to like provide the proper channels that doesn't make law enforcement uneasy. So in kind of like a full circle moment, when we founded Season of Justice, I actually had the director like go to the police department, like knock on their door and be like, hey, I know you got this case that has DNA, and like we have this thing now. And so they submitted for it. It took 4 years, but they actually just solved her case.
Unbelievable.
The guy was still alive. He was living in another state. So they arrested him. And so he'll, I don't know how he's going to plead, but he could go to trial.
That's incredible. Her
is.
family must be so gratified by that. I always say part of a crime like that is the mystery.
Yeah.
There is no justice. Somebody
Yeah.
did this to our child, to our sibling, to our what
Yeah.
have you. And when it goes unsolved, it's like you're left
I
with
think
nothing but questions.
Exactly. And I think that's what it is. And you call it closure, call it something else. Some people don't like closure. But I think that when everything is a possibility, that's what keeps you up at night. You can imagine every single thing. You can imagine every single person. I mean, the families that I've talked to, they're like, I have to walk down the street and wonder if I passed the person who killed my loved one.
Right.
And so it doesn't bring the person back. It doesn't even necessarily change how you feel, but I think having a name, having a little bit of finality, at least offers you a bit of peace, because you only have to know one scenario, and you can know where the person is, and you don't have to wonder if you're talking to them or walking by them, which I think is just like a little bit of relief.
I had that app on my phone, Jan. I don't know if you ever had it. I don't know if you have it yet, Ashley, but there's an app called Predator Finder.
I don't.
It tells you
You met your match, Ashley.
it tells you where the sexual deviants are in your neighborhood.
Oh,
And-
I do
and-
something else, but yes.
And it literally alerts you. It pops up if you're close to a sexual predator, which I hate to break it to you. We are all constantly surrounded by
Everywhere.
sexual predators. They're everywhere.
Wow.
And what was good about this like app is that, their level of offense would pop up and their picture would pop up. And I realized that I used to take my kids to a bakery, and one of the bakers that would always like give my kids cookies was one of these predators.
Wow.
And when his face, because I had just downloaded the app, and all of a sudden I walk into the bakery and it's like bloop, bloop, and I'm like, that's weird.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm staring.
Oh,
I'm,
God.
And my kids are like, can we get a cookie? And I was like, no, stay here.
Don't touch that.
No, we're not having cookies. No cookies.
Wow.
Never.
We're late. We have to go. But it was
It's wild.
It was wild what proximity we are constantly into sexual predators.
We say on Crime Junkie, like, you never know anyone ever, like, really. And the more that I've, like, when I get into cases like Ada Herodines, or these ones where we investigate for like a year, what I can't never get over is that I will find minimum three, sometimes five, sometimes more people who absolutely, like, if I only told you about the one person, I could convince you they killed her and you would want to send them away. And I'm like, it makes me feel like if I just like drop dead tomorrow, I feel like there's probably 20 people in my orbit that like could be good for murder, but like I have no idea.
Oh, if
like,
let me
just
tell
feel
you
like-
something. If I
Oh,
drop
I'm sure
dead,
you.
there is no shortage of suspects, and four of them are in this room right now. 4 of them.
I have no doubt.
I mean, I'll give you the list because I want them fully investigated after I'm gone.
I'm on it.
I'm gonna pin it to my chest so you can like a note for you.
Are you gonna go live? You're gonna go live with the boy in the Hamptons?
Ashley, Mark has weighed in from I don't know where.
No, this was earlier today. We were talking about
Mark wants to know what psychologically attracts people
is
to
wrong
true
with
crime.
us.
What is wrong with us?
wrong
Is what he's asking.
it. What are your
That's so
thoughts?
sweet of him. I've never even met the guy. I don't know. Like sometimes I think that like am I a little broken? Am I just built to do this? I think that there is something about the human brain that doesn't like when things don't fit perfectly, right?
Mhm.
Like that's why your eyes will see something that's not there for a second. You're like constantly trying to make sense of things. And I think that the things that don't make sense, we have a desire to solve them.
Mhm.
I think women also, particularly, everyone's like, why women? I'm like, we find ourselves on the other end of this stuff all the time. And so I know for me, it's like a little bit of vigilance, like hyper-vigilance. Like if I can figure out every way this goes wrong and every app to download and everything to do, maybe I stand a little bit better chance of protecting myself. And I'm sure Mark wouldn't understand that that's how women have to live in the world. I'm sure he's a good guy. I don't know. But like,
No, he doesn't. It's very funny. We were talking about this. My friend and I, on the night of a great snowstorm back in 1992 or 3, were at the same nightclub. And there was this huge snowstorm. There was a blizzard. It was like it's like the Boston crime all over again. And he talks about, like, we were talking about how we didn't know each other then, but we were at the same nightclub on the same night. And he's like, oh yeah, I picked up this cute boy and I took him back to my apartment. And I was like, weren't you afraid that you were going to get raped and murdered? And he was like, no. And I was like, oh, that is such a guy, like guys can do that. You know,
they just operate differently in the
operate
world.
differently, because I would never pick up a guy at that club. And it was a gay club, so I could not have picked up a guy.
Probably not anyway.
But I would say I would
It had
not.
nothing to do with the rape and the murder.
But apples to apples. Let's say it was not a gay club. I would never have picked up a guy and a stranger and taken them home like that back in those days.
Yeah, there's too many ways.
Too many ways that goes wrong. That does not end in my advantage at all.
But that's so your personality. When things don't suss up, you are like, I got to figure
Oh
this
yeah,
out.
if something doesn't make sense to me, I have to. I mean, I'll strip something down to the studs to make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
why I have found. That's why I'm obsessed with you.
Which is why we're the way we are.
And that's why I thank you for
What's wrong
doing.
with us?
Thank you for doing our humble podcast. I literally feel
Oh
like
my
we could
God,
have.
I'm so
I could have
excited.
talked to you for 17 weeks, but listen, Albert.
I'm listening.
Listeners, I know you already know this, but don't forget to check out all of Ashley Flowers' podcasts. There's Crime Junkie. There's The Deck. The Deck Investigates. So Supernatural. Full Body Chills. And my personal favorite, Crime Junkie AF.
So
That's how you
good.
have to do it. Also, you can pre-order her upcoming crime novel. The Missing Half is set to be published in May of 2025. I cannot wait to pre-order that sucker. That's going to be nighttime reading for me. It will definitely be another New York Times bestseller. So I congratulate you in advance. Maybe you can come on the talk show. Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
yeah.
yes, when you do your media tour, will you come on our show?
I would love.
That
Oh
would
my
be good.
God, please. I would love that.
And that way, Mark can grill you about why do women?
He didn't say women.
Because I always tell him when I watch Snapped all day on a Sunday, and I go, the problem with
you watch Snapped all the time.
these women don't play the long game. They murder in the fit of passion. You
Yeah,
gotta
don't do that.
buy the garbage bags 3 years out.
In advance.
In a different
And
county.
then when you
play
tear it off, you got to get rid of the bags so they
pay
can't match
cash.
up.
Right. You've got to buy the shovel.
Yeah,
go to a different state and rent a car and pay in cash.
Thank
Don't
you.
use a credit card. Are you crazy?
Turns into a how-to
You have
manual.
to make sure that your security camera goes out like months before. It can't just be,
Months
like, the
before.
day of.
Months.
Like,
You don't
Yeah, I
get
mean,
rid of the Ring camera. Get rid of
I
it.
know.
You two would pull off
I
the
know.
perfect murder.
Oh my God, we're two Thelmas or two Louises. I know.
there's your like Netflix comedy. Ashley Flowers and Kelly Ripa.
I love. Oh,
Great
are you
idea.
kidding?
Oh,
I want to
get
binge.
on
I want
that.
to binge it right now.
Get on that. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today. We really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. All
Thank
right,
you so much.
bye. Come on, Al. That was great.
She's adorable.
She is.
She's amazing.
She is amazing.
She's so your type of people, but you and that you could have talked for hours and hours.
I guess that's it.
Yeah.
That is it.
That's it, guys. I hope you're as haunted as we are,
That's
everyone.
a cool Halloween episode.
It's the best Halloween episode.
Yeah.
Can't wait to talk off camera next week.
Bye.
Bye. Let's Talk Off Camera with Kelly Ripa is a production of Melojo Productions with help from Goat Rodeo. Our theme song is Follow Me from APM Music. From Melojo, our team is Kelly Ripa, Mark Consuelos, Albert Bianchini, Jan Chalet, Devin Schneider, Michael Halpern, Jacob Small, Roz Therian, Seth Gronquist, and Julia Desch. From Goat Rodeo, our team is Kara Schillen, Megan Nadolski, Max Johnston, Isabel Kirby McGowan, and Rebecca Seidel. Additional sound design by Terrence Bernardo. This show is powered by Stitcher.